The former Chief of Staff to the former Vice President, Mike Pence, joins us now for more. Mark, welcome to the programme. 20 minutes ago, we were having a different conversation about ultimatums, and now it's something else. How would you characterise that statement from the President?
Well, look, Jonathan, the president likes to hold all the cards, and he certainly likes to negotiate publicly, as you saw through the weekend. But, you know, I kind of feel in some ways, it's not a perfect analogy, but somewhat similar to the aftermath of Liberation Day. I think we know the president watches markets closely, but not just equity markets, also bond markets. And you've seen treasuries continuing to go higher. And as we head to the midterms, the number one issue for American voters remains affordability. And so certainly if energy prices stay escalated, that has an impact. But if you also are seeing treasuries continue to rise, then I think that has an even greater impact on mortgages and a lot of other things. And so I think that the president is clearly de-escalating here. I mean, to y'all's point about it'll be interesting to see how Iran responds. But if we've essentially basically debilitated much of their offensive capability, I'm not so sure that that is as critical. I mean, I think there's a question about the authenticity about the negotiations, but at the same time, I'm not sure it makes as much difference how they respond if the president is taking his foot off the gas.
Mark, that's what I was going to ask you about, the authenticity and how this is so different from Liberation Day, because the president was almost negotiating in the open with himself when it comes to Liberation Day. He was able to control that lever in terms of how high tariffs would go. With this, you have Israel involved, which as of this morning, we're continuing to target Iranian facilities, and the Iranian regime. Is this potentially just an empty statement?
I don't know, Maria. I think it's hard for Israel to get out in front of the United States on this. I think there's no doubt that Netanyahu has looked at this opportunity ever since October 7th to defend Israel and to take offensive measures. But at the same time, from an international perspective and feedback internationally, I think he really can't get too far out in front of the president of the United States on this. And so I think that the president does hold a lot of the cards here. And, you know, we'll see if there actually does generate some sort of movement in the Straits of Hormuz, or if that, I think, is the crux of the issue to watch over the next 5 days.
Mark, what's driving him? Financial markets or the midterms?
I think that he's probably less concerned about the midterms. I think, Henry, that normally I think you'd look at this and say, hey, look, do you really want to go through impeachment again? But I don't think that really concerns him as much. I think he views it as I've overcome that. And I don't think he's ever really worried about others on the ballot as much as himself. And so I think this is more about market reaction. I think he's concerned about the economy. He's concerned about affordability. And look, I think that in some ways, I think the president's success in lowering energy prices in the first year of his administration, in some ways, I think masked much of the cost of his trade agenda. And I think that now that energy prices have spiked, I think some of that will come out, as a more detrimental to the president. So I think that's what's really his focus here, is addressing the affordability issue.
Marc, it's good to see you. Thanks for jumping on and reacting to that breaking news. Marc Shaw, there, the former Chief of Staff to the former VP, Mike Pence.